Okay, so I am back. I'm feeling more like myself. I think because I got out that little mild rant, I guess. I remember watching some creator and she was like, "You're feeling all blocked up and stopped up, and like you're too much in your head, and you just need to get it out. Just go cuss them out, you know?" So, yeah, right? My version of a cuss out, grounded and methodical. I'm a Capricorn. Capricorn sun, that is. Libra rising, which I just started to learn more about my chart anyway, right? So Capricorn sun, Libra rising, Aries moon, and then the North Node in Cancer. So I will have the little video of me shuffling somewhere on the screen so you can see that. Now, like I was saying in the last video, I was over at Psychic Sister in Portland, where I go in and I do readings in person a few days out of the month. And so one of my days was yesterday, and in between a reading, I had some time, and so I shuffled. I took my decks because they're so pretty to look at and play with. And so I got a chance to shuffle out and pull the cards and do like a quick run over for myself, but I didn't have time to record the actual reading. And for this reading, we're going to pull also from um, the Serpent Fire Tarot deck, which is gorgeous. Let me tell you, let me tell you. And there'll be a video of me shuffling for those cards too. I just pulled like 3. But look how beautiful this deck is. Look how gorgeous, look how gorgeous. And I got them both on sale in my store. And I'll be working more on the store in the coming week or so, because a lot of the art products are not showing properly. Like they all say out of stock for some reason. But anyway, the cards right now, I mean, you could check those out and order a deck if you are interested, but they're so beautiful. So anyway, there will be 3 tarot cards that we talk about in addition to this spread, but I want to do it the way that I got to it there at Psychic Sister. So the first card up is the Gemini, and is it in focus? There we go. And the second card up is a fixed card. Then we have Aquarius. Then we have Descendant. And then on the bottom of the deck was Pluto. So I was just talking about Pluto and Capricorn, right? We are about to leave that transit, the retrograde transit on October 13th, because that's where we were for, I don't remember how long, because again, I'm not an astrologer, although it's interesting to me. Something like 10 years or something, we were in Pluto and Capricorn. Might have even been longer. I feel like I've been hearing about Pluto and Capricorn for a really long time. And it's, if you combine those two things, Capricorn's all about, is ruled by Saturn, and all about structure and systems and order and doing things properly. And so when you've got Pluto in Capricorn, I mean, you've got a lot of things kind of falling apart. And then you got to build it back up, and then it falls apart, and you got to build it back up, right? And then so if we could like span out and kind of use that to think about the current administration and all of the systems on top of systems, and the bureaucracy and the loopholes and the lies. Ain't none of that stuff built right. Right. Sound, just, solid. Solid in the way that it supports the people that it's supposed to, right? And the orange blob has expedited the crumble and tumble of those towers, mostly to put his own stuff in place, right? But really, on the flip side of that, when he's out of the picture, because there will come a day, then we've got a cleaner slate to build on and to build some things properly. Ooh, and I love this card, but I am getting ahead of myself. So I might actually have to go get the other deck that I have. It's an archetype deck from the Wild Unknown, and there's a card in there called the Forest, because it's all about being in the unknown, or the abyss, or what I call the in-between, right? And so here we've got the forest line, and look how shadowy and dark it is, because we know Pluto is all about transformation. This spiral here, there's so much to talk about in this card, because this spiral is like, I think of life as kind of a spiral or cyclical, right? We get to certain points and we can have experiences in 2020 that feel similar to experiences that we're having in 2025, such as people have pointed out in various threads and different posts across the internet. Like, remember back in 2020 when we got a taste of how life could be like? And they're kind of reminiscing on that time. Why? Because right now is a time to expand it for ourselves, because we have sort of cycled or circled back around to that point on the spiral. And whenever we do that, different places, different faces, but the energy feels the same. And we've got an opportunity to expand it, to evolve it, right? And for us in the future, it's so that we can live more like the way that we should or could, right? Or that's natural to us. And so this card is saying a whole lot. But I'm just going to back up a little and let's put it in the context of the reading. So my question, when I shuffled these cards, I forgot to mention my question, my goodness, was now that we are leaving the Pluto and Capricorn retrograde on October 13th, what do we need to know and what do we need to do? That was my question before I shuffled the cards yesterday. And these lovely cards came out. So let's talk about Gemini. Oof. You see how I can just feel it, like the expansive higher order readings, they really do something to my soul. You know, they align me right on up. It's not the readings actually themselves. It's the feeling into that energy, yes? So Gemini, we got the twin card. And look at the dichotomy. It's just like jumping off the page. All of the binaries, all of the contrast right there, front and center. We've got things seemingly representing a dark path or a lighter path, right? The bad versus the good, the harmonious versus inharmonious. And you can think about all of the binaries that we've been operating in as a society and humanity in general. Black and white, right? Even liquid and solids. And actually, there are an infinite number of gradations between those things, right? Yeah, you've got your dark and your light at the opposite ends of a spectrum, but think about all of the points in between. And so why do we always put things as if they are total and complete opposites? So this card is encapsulating all of that. We've got Gemini, which is mutable. So we can expand that perspective on things. Even here, we've got land or some kind of landing, right? And a doorway. This isn't where we have to stop. We can continue on. And even up here in this tiny opening is the same landing and doorway, which tells me that it goes on and it goes on and it goes on. After each landing and doorway is another staircase. Then we get to this landing and doorway, and then there's probably another staircase, right? So the contrast, though, stark contrast that we are experiencing is all right here in this card. And it's like, yeah, this is how we have been living, but we don't necessarily have to continue living that way. What good are the binaries serving us? Blue versus red, when we're thinking about it in political terms. War versus peace. So here's like all of the things, yes? And Gemini represents the nervous system and all things in pairs and immense creative potential. So it feels like it's also giving a message because in its shadow, it works against itself. It divides, it separates, and it stays curious and never really lands on anything. It's also ruled by Mercury, which is the planet of communication. So if you have any Geminis in your life, then you know how kind of butterfly-like they can be, right? Fluttering from this thing to the next thing. That's that creative energy. But it's giving a message of stop working against yourself. Find the balance, find the harmony. Because if it's representing things in twos and the nervous system, well, that's, the lungs and the hands and the feet, if you think about the body, right? All of the things that we have twos of, they work in balance. We got two lungs. They keep us alive. We have 2 feet. It helps us walk. So we got to find the rhythm of how they can work in unison. And so this is like taking all of the things, taking all of the contrast here and figuring out the nuances of it, deciding what we take with us. That's what this card here, the fixed, is talking about. We've got rocks in the back and then a rainbow and this cloud happening. Then we've got a woman's body, or just a body, lying horizontal with additional rocks right behind it. So this card is talking about rooting down in the foundation of something, finding the stability, bringing together all the resources, sifting and sorting, finding the stability. This card doesn't look like stability. This is telling us take what we need. Take what we need, gather it up, sift it, sort it, use it to establish stability and to root into something. This is safety. And when it's rooted in Aquarius, it's all about rooting into community. And what card do we have next? We've got the Aquarius card. So this has been a huge theme. Community, community, community. And I'm wondering how many people listened. The theme of the year, especially earlier this year, was all about finding community, cultivating community and connections, figuring out what community is for you, deciding how not to have that individualistic mentality when joining community, right? When being in community. And so then we move from this fixed into Aquarius. And look at this. It's almost like I couldn't make this stuff up. Look at these pictures. Here, the rocks and the rainbow and the cloud becomes front and center. All of the things are moved out of the way. That's obstructing the view. And now we just have a nice, clean, clear view. with the Aquarius card there. So we're also moving back into Pluto in Aquarius, right? That's where we were before we retrograded back through Pluto in Capricorn, so that we could take a fine-tooth comb to all of the things and decide. Well, the decision has been made, because every reading I do here, it's given the same message. It's like, here is the mess. Y'all are walking away from the mess. You're walking away from it. It might not feel like it. It might not look like it. We've got a ton of contrast as we approach the crescendo. I remember back, there was this reading, and you could dig through my videos back when I had just started making videos, and they weren't that good, and I wouldn't say they're still that great, but I feel like I'm getting a little better. But my guides had, actually, it was just a recording. I don't think I was on video that day. My guides gave me a download, and they had told me in the springtime that the current administration would be no more, that it would be crumbling, and then we just have to deal with the aftermath in terms of their removal and stuff. Well, that timeline got pushed out, because that's the thing, right? When you're dealing with so many people on this grand of a scale, free will, there's a lot of free will involved, and there is a lot of trying to keep them structures and those systems and the way that it's going in place so that they can usurp more power and more power, right? So they keep ramping it up. And that's like the contrast that we're feeling, because we know damn good and well that ain't where that's not where we're supposed to be going. We already chose long time ago. We're going to take this route. We've been on this one for a long time. No, thank you. Let's see where these stairs lead instead. Looks like they might lead somewhat to a similar place, and we're going to talk about more. I've mentioned a little bit about that already, on a similar point on the spiral. But we're going to have a different outcome. That choice has never changed. That decision was made. So we're going to have a different outcome. But we're going to have to look at things falling away. We're going to have to be uncomfortable. We're going to have to be honest with ourselves. We're going to have to reinvent ourselves. A lot of us have been doing that already, in terms of pulling back deeper layers of our identity, discarding parts that no longer fit, expanding parts that need it. And that's really what this card is saying. So it's happening on that, can't talk. It's happening on the individual level as well as the collective, while the people in power just fight to keep things the same. I mean, if you listen to that video at all yesterday with the military, it's like, let's go backwards, right? That's pretty much what Hegsbreath was saying. Let's go back to the time when we had hazing, and when we were more violent towards the people that we were training so they can earn it. Let's go back to the toxic masculine way of doing things, because that's what they imbue. And that's one of the things that they're trying so desperately to uphold, right? But we've made the decision. We ain't doing that no more. We ain't got the energy for it, right? We're not interested. We've evolved and expanded beyond that, far too far to where we're not going back. Instead, we're going here. And the picture gets clearer. The view gets prettier and more serene. So Aquarius is an air sign, but I always think of it as a water sign. I think because of the symbol, it reminds me of like a wave or something, but it is the water bearer, right? And its whole objective is about community. It takes a level-headed approach and a lighthearted one. It's eccentric, it's inventive, and it merges groups. It brings people together. It's also a fixed sign. So it's telling me like, yep, we came out of here, made the decision about that. We've been sifting and sorting some stuff. And now we've arrived here in a new reality, maybe, but just in a new way of being. Because when you're sifting and sorting things on that personal level, the identity does not stay the same. Even if your surroundings don't immediately change. So we're kind of going through this process, right? Of that unknown, making decisions, because that's what that period of time is about. That unknown, that abyss, that in between. It's a very active place to be. A lot of people think of it as a waiting room, and it's certainly not that. I mean, you could use it as that, but that's more for the life happens to me crowd, the people who are waiting around to be told what to do and what to think. But the in-between is where we make decisions. We looking at all this stuff and we are making decisions. Like, nope, no longer need to think about groups of people like that. No longer need to think about myself like that. No longer accepting that because that ain't enough. And whoa, that Charlie Kirk thing was crazy. And people on both sides are seeing it, right? That's where the unifying, they're thinking it through. And that's where the unifying happens. Where you begin to see, like, it wasn't ever us versus them. It was always the top versus the bottom. The handful of extremely wealthy people in the country versus everyone else. So, unity. I suspect more unity as we swing back after the October 13th point and we get back to that feeling of community. That's what we'll be doing. That's the way forward. That's the way we are to live as humanity. No more living in silos. No more every man for themselves. And it sounds like music to my ears, but of course there will be those that don't follow, at least not immediately. And we've been seeing throughout this year that sometimes, especially collectively, we feel like we are waiting on people, right? We're kind of waiting on them to catch the beat, to catch up. So we're getting closer to where they're catching up, and we're seeing more and more of that every day, where someone has an epiphany, where someone wakes up, where someone realizes, oh, hold up, what kind of mindset was I trapped in to think that ever? How did I think really that the rapture was coming? I need to examine some things and sort it out. So, and now we're on to the descendant card. Now, at first glimpse, this looks like a little more of the things that we don't particularly love being full front and center so that we can let it fall away. And the things that are not working out as a society or for society rather, systems and that sort of thing continuing to fall. because the land looks a little barren. At least in one corner it does. But then you see some life kind of down there at the bottom. And when you think about descending into something, right? So there's been talk of some intuitives across the internet where they're like, we're not ascending, we're actually descending. We're descending. Yeah, we've descended into the unknown, into the abyss, where everything is breaking, so then that we can come together and put it back together again. So this is giving me that vibe just off the cuff. But the descendant is also about partnerships. It's like in the reflection of the seventh house, which is all about partnerships and agreements. How you define partnership. So as we build community and cultivate relationships, which ones have lasting power? Which ones do we turn into partnerships to build with, right? That's also what this is saying. It's kind of a doorway, and then there's a lotus card up there. And we've used that flower to represent Kamala in the past. Other intuitives have. And it'd be nice to see her more on the scene. She is with her book deal right now. And so some of us are holding out hope. I don't know really where I stand. I guess we'll see when the energy, changes. As the energy changes, I guess. Would I love her to take the reins? Absolutely. But I know that she can't help us through this in between. That's just not her job. That's not her role. We got to get here first before she'd probably even consider. That's my feeling on it. But partnerships, agreements, right? As well as the ones that were all tangled up on the not so great side of the contrast, right? Rearing their heads, trying to muck up the good thing that we're going to have going on. And then we get to the bottom of the deck, which had the Pluto card, right? And I talked about this already and how beautiful, how I love, like, it's so crazy because, excuse me, my sun sign is Capricorn, right? And we were just in Pluto and Capricorn for a very long time. And so it was like constant breaking down of structures and rebuilding, and breaking down of structures and rebuilding, and refining identity and working things out for myself personally. It was a lot of heavy lifting, and that's because of the role that I play in this lifetime as I'm working out things in the past, in my past lifetimes. And so Pluto has always been quite present in my life, because that's also what that spiral means, like going back to what I just said about the past lifetimes, that spiral, like we can roll around at any point of the spiral and it could be reminiscent of 5 years ago or 7 years, a lot of times for me, or of past lives as well. And I'll realize, like, okay, I'm also working that out in this lifetime, right? To evolve it, to expand it. And so Pluto is all about transformation. It's the things lying in the shadows that we got to work out. And that one card that I mentioned from the Wild Unknown, where it's the Forest card, and it says something to the effect of, if you, oh gosh, how does it go? It's like in the forest, you have to at least be frightened for one night for your life or something like that. Otherwise, you just are in like a little cluster of trees. You're not really in the deep forest. Because when we're going through heavy transformation, it ain't easy, babe. Like transformation, it gets something like this. This has euphoric vibes to it, right? This is like, let the sunshine in. That song always plays when I hear or when I see this card or when I tune in and ask, well, what the heck's going to happen to us? I remember a long time ago, I tuned in about it right around the election, and I was like, what is going to happen to us as a country, as a society, as humanity? What's going on? And I saw this image of us, and it kind of felt like in the 70s, and everybody was like flower children running around, and that song was playing in my head. And I thought, wow, we've really got an opportunity here to step into something a lot more aligned with who we really are, right? But that's where Pluto comes in. Pluto helps us break down all that shit. Personally, collectively, on the larger scale, globally, because it's all happening simultaneously. That's why we all feel a little batshit crazy. But there's a door and stairs and that spiral and the forest there. And I absolutely love it. So in the context of my question, as we are stepping back into Pluto and Aquarius on October 13th, and we are done with the retrograde of Pluto and Capricorn, what do we need to know? What do we need to do? This is telling me to continue on the path. This is telling me to don't look at the contrast and lose hope. This is telling me to remember where we are headed because we already made the decision. This is telling me to work out some partnerships and to continue building community. And I do wonder how many of us are listening because we're going to need that. We're going to need it. So if you've ever been in if you've ever been in a period of transformation in life, you know how quiet it can get at times when you're right about to turn a corner and you look around and you're thinking like, man, what the hell is this? What did I do? I'm not hearing any friends. Like, where are they? Why are opportunities not lining up? Did I make a wrong choice? And at that moment, a lot of people, they just turn back around to what they know and they go right back to the contrast, right back to the things that were not working for them, right back to that old identity that was ready to leave, right? And they set themselves up to go back around to re-engage in the same lesson that was ready to leave. And then you'll have another opportunity and another opportunity and another opportunity to work it out because that's how life works as well, right? Every time, because we are human and because, life is, well, it's rough sometimes. But every time every time we circle back around to a point on the spiral that feels similar to something else, we have the opportunity to evolve it. Sometimes we take it and sometimes we don't. So that's inevitable. until you get to a more awakened, I don't really, more awakened state, I was going to say, but until you become a little more aware of how the thing is working, and then you'll loop back around and you'll try it again, right? And so, where was I going with that? It can be a little rough, and people sometimes run back, right, to what they knew, to what was more comfortable, to the mindset that they just had on, or were just within or a part of, because it feels better than to have to make decisions and to step into a place that you were unfamiliar with and get acclimated to doing things with new people and finding new partnerships. And so this reading is saying, don't do that. We got an infinite number of tools at our disposal to help us through the in-between. You don't know what to do? Well, it's a whole lot of folks running around that don't know what to do. Go lock arms with them. Go figure it out together. Okay. So keep going. Stay hopeful. Don't fall into the pits of despair, because that's what they want us to do. It's looking rough out there. And it may look a little rougher, especially in certain parts of the country. Resources may get, this card's about resources. Resources may get a little scarce in certain parts of the country before all of this is over. Hopefully not. But if so, we're going to work it out together. We know that states, they have the capacity to help other states often. They often do. Do what you can for yourself and your family. But just remember where we're going. And we're going together. So, okay. I love it. I could talk about Pluto and transformation all day long. Oh, and I do have a free, what is it called? From Stuck to Aligned. These titles, like sometimes I struggle with titles, but anyway, From Stuck to Aligned, a 6-day reset for work and purpose. I'll link it in the comments there. It's totally free. It's just some recordings. It's a 6-day mini course where you learn how to navigate the in-between, as I call it, and realign with your purpose, to establish your, like, what is it that you have to offer to the world that's totally in alignment and totally authentic to you. Because we all came into this world with many things, right? We came in with many things. And so this period of time is about tapping in or tuning in, connecting back in with your true essence, right? And what it is that you really have to offer to others while you're here. So the 6-day mini course is designed to help people do that. And really quick, because I had also pulled cards from the Serpent Fire Tarot. Oh my goodness, this camera. Serpent Fire Tarot. I don't know if you guys can see that. But it was the High Priestess that came out first, the 3 of Swords, and then the Empress. So 2 major arcana. And this one's all about intuition, going within, all of the things that I've been talking about, right? She knows, like she takes that. I always look at this card and I think of the bird's eye view, right? Kind of like Aquarius, a little in that sense, because there's a bit of detachment to Aquarius. He doesn't get caught up in the nitty-gritty details so much, right? Things are clearer, right? There's a bit of detachment. And this card operates like that as well. But it's about going within. It's about remembering your inner power, your agency, and commanding from that place, right? And then we've got the Three of Swords. It feels like the warning card, the way that I was saying, oh my goodness, the way that I was saying, like, don't get lost in this. Don't get lost in the contrast. Don't get lost in the momentum that they are attempting to create. Because this card is kind of giving a warning of, hey, depression and self-loathing, I will say, and feeling stuck, right? And confusion and worry and doubt, right? But this card is also about like the clouds of confusion that are breaking. And so it's saying don't give up. It's also saying that whatever Pluto is bringing to your awareness, and whatever that Saturn return in that last reading brought to your awareness in the eclipse, right? About things out of alignment, because that's what happens when we are in a transformation, as we are, you know, individually and collectively and globally. When we are going through a transformation, everything that's out of alignment is going to come into view, into plain, clear view. So we can make sense of it and we can put it in its proper places and move on. So this is kind of the warning of, hey, when that happens, don't be alarmed. Because then on the other side is the Empress. She's all about creativity. She's all about stepping into the divine feminine. This card is also asking, like, what is the divine feminine to you? A lot of people have a surface level understanding of what femininity is. They think it's about how you dress, or if you get your nails done, or, you know, how you speak. But no, that is just a very surface societal way of understanding femininity, and especially when we're talking about divine femininity. Divine femininity, like in comparison to masculinity, when they are both operating in the positive, the deeper you go into one, I mean, and you go into the other, they converge, right? They become like the symbiotic sort of rhythm of structure and flow and creativity and containment. You know, they just do this very beautiful dance with one another. This is where we are headed. The divine feminine has risen. They keep saying that. We keep hearing it. That's where we're going. Right? And here she is making an appearance. This card also gives me, every time I see it, it gives me the sense of marrying the two, right? Marrying the creativity with the physical world. Like there's a sense of getting things done, but in a divine order or timing, through aligned action. This Empress, you think she working and burning the candle at both ends? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. She's using all of her prowess, all of her creativity, all of her beauty, all of her resources. They're aligned, they're flowing. She's got her own rhythm. So that's what these three cards we're talking about here. I just pulled them as some clarifiers and to kind of mix it up a bit and show you guys this beautiful deck as well. But in the context of my question, right? Since we're moving into Pluto and Aquarius again, what do we need to know? What do we need to do? I think we've kind of touched on all of it. You got to continue on through the forest. This is the point where we are, at least for this one night, scared for our lives, right? Because of the contrast that we are seeing. And it's okay, but we're gonna make it through if we keep going. We're gonna circle back around though if we don't. And we'll have another opportunity, but I don't think collectively that's what's happening here. As a group, all together, we're moving forward. We've decided it's so. So okay. I'm gonna leave it there. That was a long one, but it was a good one. It felt good giving that reading. I'll see y'all later.